Jamie Freeny, thank you so much for joining us on Promise in Me Unleashed.
Happy to be here today. Extremely happy to be here on a topic that's I'm very passionate about, and hoping that folks would really get some hope out of what I'm sharing.
Jamie, I so much appreciate you coming on to share a portion of your story and how you are managing this very, very sensitive yet powerful subject as it relates to mental health. So please just share with us what your experience has been through your own personal journey.
Well, yeah, every time I have the opportunity to share, I'm honored. I'm honored that everybody that's listening would let me speak to them and allow me to enter into their heart and their personal space, God willing. So what I want to do today is tell my story, and a story in the church will be called a testimony, and that's what I also believe it to be. So I'm going to try to do very briefly over the course of the last sort of roughly almost 30 years now. Try to give you a chronology of my experience with mental illness. In college, my sophomore year, I had started experiencing major issues related to mental illness, but at that time I did not know what they were. I can only label them now as such. Just prior to that, I had a what some people call religious conversion, but I had given my life to Christ just prior to my sophomore year in college. I was attending the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and I was very serious about my commitment, and so I kind of broke away from some of the friends that I had, not completely, but in many ways, because I wanted to live a different life. And I was connected to a local church, and that's important because the local church in that context, they did a good job in many ways in my spiritual journey, but they didn't do a good job with helping me to respond to what I was experiencing. So I'll get to that in a moment. But what I had was essentially extreme depression. And it was something that I had never experienced before. And it was so bad that I literally would not want to go to class. I mean, it would be a struggle just to go to class. And I was a good student. My mom was a teacher. And I still partied when I was a freshman, but I managed to get a 3.0, and I did my homework, and I went to class. And so going to class was something that was going to happen. So me not wanting to go to class was a big deal. And I frankly had not understood or experienced any prolonged sadness that I had. I also had what I now know is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And that was something that I had uncontrollable thoughts that essentially were not within my character, were not part of who I was. And that's a medical issue.
Jimmy, I want to ask you a question real quickly, because this sparked my attention immediately, and just want to go back just a tad. When you talked about the depression, could you, or were you able to identify even why you felt depressed?
Well, I'm speaking now from a person who has 30 years lived experience with mental illness.
Right. Yeah.
So
At that time,
yeah,
yeah.
at that time, I didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
Um, I and I had no one to ask questions about.
Right.
It's, and so as I mentioned, the church that I went to was really like, even any physical issues, let alone mental health challenges,
Mhm.
that all you needed to pray and touch and agree, that kind of concept. And
That it was
um
gonna go away,
yeah,
and
exactly, it
it was
was going
gonna
to
be
go
all
away.
right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't happening. I
Mm.
was going to church a lot.
Right.
So I had absolutely no idea what it was at that time.
Mhm.
And just to try to fast forward, I lived like that. I started to experience those symptoms
Mhm.
my sophomore year, and that was when I was about 21.
Mhm.
And so I lived like that till I was about 28, without knowing what that was.
Mhm.
So I made it through college, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree. I moved to this area,
Mhm.
um, and transferred, and then in addition to that, I got married, and still didn't know what it was. It was nightmarish. It
Mhm.
really was, because I mentioned I had the support network at that time was extremely limited, until I got married,
Right.
because I was in I kind of I had some loyal friends who were not going to judge me for mental health, because they were decent. They were party. I mean, they like to party
Mhm.
and do the things that a lot of college students did at UMES. But with me, they weren't going to judge me for it. So, but I didn't know what to say or how to say it. They
Mm.
just knew that I was different.
Right.
So I went for about up until my marriage without having a support network.
Mhm.
And then my wife, who was a very wonderful woman, um, she came from a medical background,
Okay.
and her dad was a PA, a physician assistant. Her mom was a psychiatric nurse, so
Mhm.
she was able to recognize the symptoms. So that's sort of the round one, if you will, being maybe round one of three.
Mhm.
And that's sort of the depressive round, and that's before I receive any diagnosis of any kind.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so somehow, I did manage to graduate from college,
Mhm.
and even start graduate school, and start my first, what you would say, real job. When you get
Right.
out of
Mhm.
college, you have, when you're in college and before college, you have jobs that are just helping you, get by.
Get along, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And then after you graduate, you have a job that hopefully, if you're fortunate enough,
Mhm.
that hopefully is in your field, and or at least a field that you want to get into. And then so I managed to get past that place, and you know God had shown me his favor, because my career and educational path really wasn't deterred too much, even with all that. And I a lot of people, when you walk around, and you've had the burden that I've had, or you've had the experiences that I've had, they want to give you credit, and they want to talk about how wonderful you are, how great you are. And but when you're in the midst of it, you know that it's only by faith.
Yeah.
And that was no doubt in my mind. And so and I talked to Jackie about this the other day, excuse me, Jacqueline, about this the other day. But it's just, it's very difficult for you to take credit for stuff,
Yeah.
when you were brought so humble,
Mhm.
and made low, and know that it wasn't something that you did to kind of sustain you.
And it really
So,
is a God thing,
yeah.
because nobody knows unless you've had the experience. And I'm learning, not through my own personal experience with myself, but through the experience of my loved one, that nobody really understands what that rotation in your mind might be. And that it really is only by the grace of God that you're able to sustain through it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can definitely attest to that, from what I've observed. Mhm.
So this was when I was about 30 or so, and
Mhm.
and I finally received a diagnosis,
Mhm.
which was bipolar.
Mhm.
And that was I was sort of in that period in my shortly after I got married. I have what they call a manic phase.
Mhm.
And Manic phase is essentially a prolonged period where people with bipolar are not able to sleep. They have all these grandiose ideas about what they're going to do, and all of these grand plans. And I'm a visionary anyway.
Mhm.
You know, I like to I have big dreams, and so
Mhm.
for me, you know, I certainly had all of these plans about what I wanted to do. So I think it's important for people to understand that when you go through years of depression, or I'm just talking about holiday blues, or even somebody has a death in the family and maybe they go through a couple years, it's really difficult. But I'm talking about years and years of depression.
Mhm.
When you have a manic phase, and it's hard for me to really break it down, it'd be kind of boring in this context. um, and you have bipolar, it feels so good. And I say that with all sincerity. It feels so good to us because we haven't had a break, no matter what kind of medication we received,
Mhm.
no matter how much therapy we received. The manic phase is feels so good to us.
Wow.
That is why it's hard to reach somebody in a manic phase.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons. The doctors will tell you more. They'll give you more information. But I want anyone listening, hopefully I haven't bored you enough
Oh,
that you made
no.
it this far.
Mhm.
This is really an important point to make. So my as I progressed in my lived experience with mental illness, my I would have more manic phases than I would depressive states.
Okay.
But I still point this out. My career did not get derailed, nor my education really didn't get derailed too much either,
Mhm.
because I went on, after I got my bachelor's degree, I went on to get a master's degree, and it took me longer than the average, but at the
Mhm.
same time I was working. And so I had a couple of periods that I had where I had manic phases where I was working,
Mhm.
two different employers,
Wow.
both of which had a sensitivity to people that
Mhm.
had mental illness. Right?
Awesome.
Most people that live this life that I've come through are lucky to have one employer that has that sensitivity.
Yes.
Especially not somebody that's in management.
Mhm.
And I should mention that I got a break at a young age to be in management. And so let alone two employers, two supervisors that have a sensitivity to folks that are in mental illness, that are experiencing mental illness. So I had extended periods of time where I was out, both due to manic phases. And when you have a manic episode, a manic experience, it takes time to get to a bit of a climax, right? And then it takes fairly long time for you to sort of come down from that. And
So,
I don't mean to be too clinical here,
well, Jimmy,
Jackie. Yeah, yeah,
you're helping me because I want to
yeah,
understand that manic part.
yeah,
You indicated that when you're manic,
Yeah.
that you're on a high.
Yeah.
You're just like on a high. So what does that look like? That means everything is rosy, everything's wonderful. I can, climb the highest mountain. And then
Yeah.
is it a
Yeah.
point
All of
where you
those
just
things.
kind of
Yes.
crash?
Yes. And yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when
And
you
yes.
come
Yeah.
down, you're in the low.
Well, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain that to
So
me.
yeah. So for a manic phase is something that develops over time.
Okay.
And so what does a manic phase look like? So what it looks like is it people don't sleep as much. So that's the first thing. And they feel people feel good. I mean, you have really good feelings. You make plans about for example, if you had a desire to start a business and that was just on the ground level, you might you might go too far. You might try to do too much too soon. You would be failing. If you had a desire to do some advocacy, political advocacy, or whatever it may have been, you may think that after you've lost a couple of nights sleep that you should be an appointee of Obama.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to give you a sense.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, so if you're a college basketball fan like I am, and you've been told, oh, you have a little bit of insight on this, you have some insight on this. Why don't you, come and talk to our kids about your life and how you made it? Then all of a sudden you might feel like, oh, I need to be the assistant coach at Kentucky or
it's
North Carolina.
Huge swings.
A huge swing. So these things that you're already passionate about, then after you've been, this is real life. These are the things that I felt. And to bring it all the way home, I had a very real experience. I used to go to a Zion church. Keith Battle is the pastor there, and a very good man, wonderful man. He went to Washington Bible College, same Bible college I did. So I knew him from my educational experience. And they gave me the opportunity, based on my educational and professional background, to start a ministry called the Stevens Ministry. I was so excited about it. And I was so excited that it started to bring on a manic phase slowly. And they sent me to Florida to train me. And by the time that I got down to Florida, and the training, it was full blown. It just so happened that my uncle, who lives in Florida, was at the same conference.
Wow.
That I had no idea he was going to be there. Right. And it was one guy at that conference who was a veteran, a Vietnam veteran, and a pastor, a chaplain. He looked at, he total stranger until that week. He looked after me like I was his own.
Wow.
And so, you see that these things just don't happen by accident. They happen by people that care, people that decide they're going to reach out to you. And even just for a few days, that makes a difference. Right. My uncle, and that's just no coincidence that my uncle was there. And I didn't know he was going to be there. And so this was I think it was in Orlando. They live in Amelia Island. So he came, he took me back to Amelia Island And I had to rearrange my flight, and my wife did. So she flew from the DC area to Jacksonville, which is closer to Amelia Island, and took me back on the flight with me. I could not have safely gone back by myself. And again, my wife came through, as she always has. And so what I tell her, and I joke, but I say, you bought low, so now you have high. If you play the stocks, you bought, you went through a lot, you made your investment, and now this is what you have now. I'm joking about it, but it's kind of just to make light of it, but it's true. She made the investment in me during those challenging times, and now we're sitting here. We got married in 1998, so we're looking at our 24th year pretty soon.
That's awesome. So, I'm glad that you mentioned family, because I think that is probably the most important support that you can have when you're met with a crisis like mental health, bipolar, schizophrenia. Many people are not going to understand that, but I think love speaks louder than anything else. And even though the individual may not understand what's happening, and maybe the family may not understand, but it's the love that kind of gets you through it, and that makes you more patient and more understanding. That brings me to the point of NAMI Prince George's. How did you get connected with them and then ultimately become a board member with NAMI Prince George's?
So first of all, my wife received services from NAMI Prince George's when I was in crisis. I knew about NAMI because NAMI is a nationwide organization, and so I am in the, which I really haven't mentioned, I've been in the social services nonprofit field, housing guru for many years. And so I made a decision that I wanted to invest in my local community. I had professionally have done work mostly in Montgomery County and DC for probably about 19 years out of my career. So I made a decision. I was like, why don't you bring some of that here to Prince George's County? I felt like there's some things that I could offer, not more than just my professional experience, but my heart and my commitment.
And such a need.
So yeah. And so I went to an event for volunteers, and I met Colette Harris, which I adore Colette, and so she's a wonderful lady, and so I met her, and I was on a board already, and called Independence Now, and so that's how I came to know NAMI. And I started talking to Colette, and Colette gave me the opportunity first to tell my story publicly. And that was probably about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And it was just the beginning of me telling it multiple times. Usually it's a little briefer and more brief. Gosh, my mom was an English teacher. She would have hated that. But yeah, that was my initial exposure to NAMI.
Yeah. And I can also say and attest to what you're saying as it relates to the services that NAMI provides and continues to provide for those affected by mental illness and their families. There is support for both. And I also had the pleasure of meeting Colette Harris, the prior director of NAMI Prince George's, and continue to have relationships with those who provided our family with support classes, and just have been a wealth of information and resource as we all kind of journey through this process as it relates to mental illness. And nobody will really understand the impact of it unless you have to live it.
Yeah.
And when you have to live it, it is so important to have those resources available to you. So I commend the work that NAMI is doing nationwide, and even and especially locally in our Prince George's County area. In addition to that, I know advocacy is a big thing that's on your heart. And you are, one of the pillars of advocacy in supporting NAMI. Just tell us a little bit more about that side of it, and also about the upcoming event, the NAMI Walk. Just speak with us a little bit more about that. I want to throw out the name of the team, but share with us about the advocacy first.
Well, first of all, let me break down NAMI a little bit more.
Sure.
NAMI is a nationwide grassroots organization,
Right.
that has statewide affiliates, and in some cases, there are local affiliates. Prince George's County is fortunate enough to have a local affiliate.
Yes.
And I want to say this: all services are free. That's FREE, free.
Keep trying to tell folks.
So it's a mostly volunteer run organization. And so donations and support go towards free services. Some of the, just as a general rule, what you have is education, and sort of, we have virtual groups at this point for families and individuals that are experiencing mental illness, as well as things that I mentioned already, like opportunities to go and what they call it in our own voice, that allows you to go out and tell your experience as a person who's lived with mental illness. And also, we're getting a lot of invites, more and more, to go out and do educational fairs. So everything we do, and it is free for now. I don't know, that may not be forever. Right. As we continue to get a high number of requests. In terms of NAMI Walks specifically, NAMI Walks occurs annually, and that is done by NAMI Maryland. And so it's a network of that NAMI Maryland puts on, and we're connected as an umbrella organization, that is NAMI Maryland, to Prince George's County and a number of other affiliates in the state. Right. And so there are like 4 or 5 other affiliates. And so
yeah, I was going to say, so you are the leader of the Stigma Stompers, who we had the pleasure of joining last year, when we were right in the throes of COVID and weren't really quite sure if we were going to be able to get together. But a few heroic people said, yep, I'm going to join the Stigma Stompers. And thank you to Deborah, who another person that we love dearly, who has really been in the trenches, Deborah Bennett, in the trenches with NAMI, and has supported it as well, engaged us with Stigma Stompers. And we had the opportunity to have you host, as you have, and I hope will continue to do so, the Stigma Stompers team for the NAMI Walk. Share with us, one, what was your intention as you gave that name for the NAMI Walk?
The Stigma Stompers. Listen, folks around in general think that mental illness is a bad name. It's like a bad word. So that is why there's a stigma associated with it. Stigma keeps folks from getting the support they need.
Yes.
It keeps people from speaking out. There are a lot of bad words thrown around in this world, in the various cultures. And the same words that are thrown around about different cultures are thrown around about people with mental illness. That's just food for thought.
So true.
And so Stigma Stompers, we want to stomp on everything associated, negativity associated around a mental illness, and all the thoughts, all the speech. And the reason why we want to do that is so folks will have a voice. Folks that have not grown confident as I have will have a voice. Families, and friends, loved ones, anyone who has a person who's personal experience, whatever. And so that's the reason for the name Stigma Stomper. We want to stomp all over the stigma.
And
we want to eradicate it.
Yes, because I think the more educated we become, the less fearful, one, that we are. And two, we are better able to support our loved ones. And I would say, go ahead. What were you going to say?
And we want to give you a different face associated with stigma.
Yes.
Excuse me. We want to give folks a different face to associate with mental illness. When we think of mental illness, if you come to our walk on Jacqueline's going to give you May 21st at 10 a.m. at Allen Pond, you will see multiple faces, not just mine, that you can have a different association with mental illness.
Yes.
It will be a sense of solidarity, support, hope, and any number of different positive feelings that you will have based upon your experience.
Yeah, it's a brotherhood, it's a sisterhood, it's a network of people who, one, are passionate about seeing the stigma being stomped, but also a network of people who really understand. And while every person, family member might really be dealing with even a crisis, even in that very moment, there is such a spirit of unity when we come together like that, to share and just support the initiatives that not just NAMI are putting forth, but supporting each other. And that was one of the things that I so thoroughly enjoyed, and just kind of felt that unity. Because it's a uniqueness that, I say this sometimes, we did not ask for these things to happen. But I do believe there's a certain kind of people that can walk this walk, and really, as a parent, a certain kind of parent that was crafted, not knowing that this was going to befall their loved one, or a certain person who was in the trenches because they've been affected by mental illness themselves. And you don't count things as a blessing, as a gift all the time when you're met with challenges, but it is a blessing to see how people are managing, and that it's even possible that it can be managed in some way with the appropriate support. So,
it's definitely a family network.
Yes.
A family feeling. It is, hopefully everyone feels a part of a family in some way. And I hope that everyone has that feeling.
Yeah.
What I feel with folks that have an expressed commitment and a personal lived experience with mental illness, be it a family member, a friend, or loved one, is I already have a feeling like they're my family.
Yes.
Because there's certain things that we come up against as a community, certain things that we have in common, that generally speaking, other groups have and experience, and we have those same mountains to climb.
Right.
We want to come together and put forth a message about who we are. We don't want people to define who we are.
Right.
We're coming together, and we're seeing it more and more, especially with COVID.
Right.
We're defining who we are.
Yes.
I want to be a person who is certainly I have no problem at all with partners like Jacqueline and many others, taking the lead in some respects and helping the mental health community to get a different definition in the other minds about who we really are.
Right.
Because they give us labels about you're this and you're that. No, we want you to know that we're different. Yeah.
Yeah. Different, but with the understanding that just like we treat a physical illness, we understand that just like there's healing for the body, there's also healing for the soul. And we have divided those two for so long, I kind of felt like, oh, God can only heal the body, but he can't do anything with our minds. And I find that to be very, very not true. He has given us all things. And so just like there is help for the body, there is yet still help for the mind. And we have to kind of keep that in the forefront of our minds, because many people lose hope when it comes down to mental illness. Oh, they'll never be, but you have defied, personally, have defied the fact that you can excel, because you've proven that, yes, this happened in college, but I was still able to get a degree. Yes, this happened, this was happening to me, but I was still able to get my master's. This was happening to me, but I was still able to find a loved one. This happened to me, but I was still able to get up and move forward and now be an advocate for something that I still manage, but it has not overtaken me to the point where I've stopped living. And I think that, if nothing else, that's a place of encouragement.
Do I need to say another word after that? I don't think I don't think I can say anything more after that.
The floor is yours, but I do want you to know that you definitely are a living testament to so many people.
Thank you.
And I hope that they take in this conversation, because you said it, COVID-19 brought on things and brought out things in people that they may not have ever expected. Mental illness has really become a bigger issue as a result of things that are happening in our environment. Maybe not things that were happening, in college or whatever, but just by the mere fact that we've gone through simply a pandemic. And that's brought on things that people never really, they kind of were dealing with something. But this event has really opened up a lot of hidden things that were going on with people. And so we have a better understanding of the importance of mental health, but more importantly, the importance of understanding that there are resources available that will help us. And we need to continue to push, support, advocate, as you are doing, that mental health is something that can be managed, but people need to know that there are resources out there that can help support them. So Jamie, I am full. And so appreciative for having you on Promising Me Unleashed. We will continue to lean on the resources that you are a part of, the NAMI Prince George's, and the NAMI National, as a resource to people who are dealing with mental illness. So I just want to tell you, thank you so much for being not just a part of this conversation, but being our guest and sharing your story on Promising Me Unleashed.
You're welcome, Jacqueline, and I sincerely hope that you and your family get all the blessings that you deserve.
Well, I appreciate it. We are favored I know for sure. And I just thank you for now being part of our family.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for being our guest on Promising Me Unleashed.